ask yourself, well, how could we do that? The way we could do that is this. If you believe in the Most High, if you believe in the Most High, if you believe in the Mother, Father, God, like you say you do, in a little while, thank you. Then that means that you know that there's no such thing as death for God. So if you know that the Most High, Mother, Father, God has always existed, right? Then that means that when the Big Bang is what they call, creation coming into existence, when that thing started, there was a point within that fusion, in that explosion, that matter already existed in the mind of what it wanted to create for itself. So that means that in that mind, in that universal mind that was created in that big explosion, in that big understanding of itself and it coming into existence and it realizing that it itself is God and that it can exist in however it wants to exist, that means that we existed in that thought too. Then that means that that thought of existence is what we live in now. Then that means that we've always existed. That means that we were always in that thought. That means that we are basically the part of God that can actualize itself and give back to God through our individual experiences. Yet, within those experiences, in the upper realms, there's no such thing as duality. You dig? It's all one thing. It all exists within itself, and therefore it shall. So there is no need to evolve into something else when you're already there. You see? So what the universal Mother, Father, God loved us so much and loved itself enough to create a small pocket of imperfection in this thing that we would today call creation, and then allow that thing to exist. And then within that imperfection, the goal then is to be born perfect and then find a way to keep perfecting oneself, because once you're perfect, you're dead, because perfection equals stagnation. So there can be no up without down. There can be no sound without thought. You know what I'm saying? So when we began to say, okay, this would be a good place for us to exist, we existed like this. It just wasn't in a dense physical form. The more this part of reality began to get carved out, and when the egregorial anti-spirits that were the negative, or let's say the darker side of the All Father, All Mother God started to exist itself, they realized that they wanted to exist too, but they wanted to exist physically, because that was more interesting to them than being perfect, which is great.
Okay, to tie in the Moors culture into ancient Egypt, at the time of the pyramids and Isis and Akhenaten and all that good stuff, where was the Moors at that time? Did they call themselves the Moors, or was it going by another name?
Right.
Because that's
okay. Well, first of all, the word Moor is a verb. So because it's a verb, it is the closest allegory or closest word we can equate to melanin, right? Because it's constantly evolving and constantly becoming something other than what it was before, in order for it to be seen as more. See? So who the Moors were historically, right? The Moors were and are the Kemites. The Moors were and are the Oguns. The Moors were and are the ancient Native Americans. The Moors were and are the ancient Chaldeans, Elamites, Canaanites, Sumerians, Abyssinians, Chickasaws, Choctaws. These are what they are, right? However, when they began to deal with other lesser beings, right? The lesser beings, or let's say the Moors, I'm jumping because this is how melanin do. The Moors originally, when they began to codify themselves as Moors, began to be seen as that, they basically were the first original priesthood of Kemet, right? They were also called the Ebers, E-B-E-R-S, in historical anecdotes, right? They were called the Everests. But what they really were they were the seers that saw maybe 2 million years before Kemet was gonna fall, that it was gonna fall. So what they started to do is they were the ones who started cataloging everything and started writing everything down and putting it in different libraries and spots and all of that, and creating places for it to cohabitate in, right? So they allowed, the Moors were the ones that allowed this thing to exist in its thank you, brother, that allowed it to exist. That's what's up. That's what's up. I feel it too. They were the ones who saw what was going to go down, and before it went down, they were the ones that decided to bounce and take the real knowledge out, and then start creating all of the satellite civilizations around that, and sharing what it was, the prophecies that was going to come down. So a lot of those Moors left ancient Kemet, let's say pre-dynastically now. We're talking about when this is before Osiris. Before Osiris, one of the biggest gods in Kemet was Khonshu.
Now I want to ask you, they didn't call themselves gods.
Nah.
Where does the word God come from?
God actually, in modern eras, came from the term Gad, G-A-D, which was one of the original tribes of Kemet that left before things got hectic. But God is also a placeholder for a word that can't even be spoken anymore. You know what I mean? Because we as original people have not only forgotten it, we have allowed other names to supplant the divine name, you know? When really God is representative of the individual to the collective. So if I'm talking, if I call you on the phone and say, hey, what's up, Sonnet? Or I say, hey, what's up, God? I'm talking to God. You see what I'm saying? I'm talking to you. Yet at the same token, if you call me and say the same thing, you're talking to God, because we're basically redistributed energy that is here to validate each other. And our experiences is what collectively makes us God. So when we are all, let's say, at a X-Clan concert, and we all talking about Black Power this, Black Power that, that's God in one voice manifest. See what I'm saying? Same way in Kemet, like I said, when the Moors started to really realize what was going on, the original Ebers, or the Moors that left, they were basically the high priests and priestesses that lived in Kemet at the time, and that seen what was going down. And because they knew that certain things have to happen in order for us to evolve to the next level, it had to go down that way, but certain information was taken out, so that way when the invaders came, you know, which was really their cousins, you know what I'm saying, they lighter skin or they darker skin cousins, yeah, because at the time there is no Caucasian people, there's no Mexican people, there's no Chinese people, there's no Puerto Rican people, none of those people exist except us, black men and black women. The people that today they call natives, that we look at and at like Indian powwows and stuff, they didn't even exist then. None of these people existed at this time. This is just us. And I don't even mean so-called African people per se. I'm talking about those original people from this part of the hemisphere right here. Those black people or Moorish people or native people or Aboriginal people look like us, you know, and maybe the Aborigines in Australia, you know, maybe some of them. But specifically us, we realized that things was going to go down. And when these things go down, sometimes they have to happen in order for us to evolve on a spiritual level as a whole. So how we do it, we see the future before it happens, then we write it down, then we let it happen, then we send somebody back that remembers, right? We send somebody back that remembers, then we allow the judgment to go down. And then once the judgment go down, then we know, okay, now it's the time for us to redistribute our wealth and come back up. What's up, homie? So when these things happen, we as original people, Moors or the Kemites, or what we would say or the Kaf Moors, or the Kem Moors, right? KMR, just like TMR means the Moors, or Chemesian Moors, like Chem Moors, right? All of these are different words for the same thing. So specifically though, around the time of, let's say, the first dynasty of Kemet, right? There was a history, show you how the Caucasian scholars do it. History says that the whole thing was started, that the first Chemesian dynasty was started by this dude named Narma, or Menes, right? That's true. It's right, but it's